Welcome to Truly Heal, and today's subject, PEMF to support heavy metal detoxification. Over the past few months, we've received many questions on how to use PEMF in the most responsible way to support heavy metal detoxification. And as we know, it's a big problem that we have today because due to fertilizers, due to coal burning, pollution, air pollution, all the household items that we have increased heavy metal toxicity in our bodies, and they cause a lot of havoc. So let's just go first through some of the basics that we need to understand in regards to accumulating those toxins before we look at detoxification. Now, the very first part is that toxins accumulate within the body of the mother already and are then passed on to the child. So it's not just what you accumulate on your own, it's also what you've already inherited. And that's a big problem. Like Dr. Gordon said, the baby is the wastebasket of the mother, where a lot of mercury that she has in her teeth and all the toxins that she's accumulated are passed on to the baby. And we know from the 10 American babies that they have up to 475 toxins, neurotoxins, endocrine disruptors, and heavy metals in their body already at birth. And then it starts a whole lifetime cycle of accumulating more and more and more. And that is something that I've expressed in this video. If you want to look it up, I put the link underneath. It's a video that actually showcases how we build up more and more toxins over time until the barrel overflows. And when it does, that's when we have symptoms or disease. Every small exposure, and don't be mistaken, it's not just one heavy metal poisoning. It's actually an accumulation of many small items, starting from the lipstick or from your cosmetics or from deodorants or from any kind of paint that you have in your house. All of that will accumulate in small portions, but then it addresses or it compiles into a big load that we see. And a very big factor that we know today is dental involvement, mercury and silver that is leached out from your amalgam fillings. You will see in a moment in those charts that it's always correlated. If somebody has high mercury, they also have high silver content, because it's silver amalgam or silver mercury that makes up amalgam. So it's a big portion. And there is one very critical element that a lot of people don't know about. If you have high quality gold, palladium, or any of those high quality metals in your mouth, and you combine them or you have them side by side, as you see in this image below, beside amalgam, it's actually corroding the lower quality material very fast, and through that extracts a lot of mercury, silver into your body, which can lead to huge amounts, especially if they are removed without special care or from an uneducated dentist. So testing heavy metals is actually a very wise thing to do, because just guessing, which is definitely true, we're all very high. We've done over the past few years, at every workshop that we do, we offer testing, and I haven't seen a single person that had not critical levels of arsenic, lead, cadmium, mercury, silver in very, very high amounts. And when you see that it's overall, that it's just nobody with low values, it's quite scary. And we've been to many clinics and doctors that do general chelation tests and hair mineral analysis. And it's quite shocking to see how we've built up those toxic levels in our bodies, and now they cause all the diseases and side effects and problems. So let's just look at some of the tests that are there. Hair mineral analysis is the very first one. It's very convenient, very easy to do, but it's not very accurate, because if your body has problems to detoxify and get rid of toxins, they are all stored within the body. So when you take then the hair, they don't show any mercury or they don't show any lead, because your body doesn't get rid of it. So it's already saying in most of those tests when they come back, if there is very low or no indication of toxins, it actually shows that your body stores all them and doesn't let go of toxins, or doesn't have the ability to detoxify. So you need to go to another test. Otherwise, it's a very easy and convenient test. The challenging test, DMPS EDTA test, is a medium that you take oral or intravenous, and you're tested before urine, heavy metal load, and then 6 hours later with your heavy metal load, and it washes out. As soon as you have that medium in your body, it washes out toxins into your urine via the kidneys, and then you can measure the increase before and after, and that shows very clearly, like here in this chart, you can see low values at first, and then the values rise dramatically in certain elements, and that then indicates which are the most toxic washout agents that you have. Now, the challenging test is probably the most accurate of all and the most reliable, but it's pretty stressful for your kidneys, and it needs to be done very wisely with a practitioner, because it washes out a lot of good minerals as well, that they prime you first, that they restore you afterwards. So it's something you can't do on your own, and you need a very experienced practitioner. The oligoscan, or mineral spectrometry oligoscan, is probably the most convenient. It's very simple. You have 4 spots on your skin, on your hand, that you would test, and you get a very fast, within a few seconds, your test results. But it's not quite as accurate. If you compare it with the challenging test, it's not a match all the time. On the other side, it's very accurate. If you do your test and you do it in another clinic with the same scanner, you will see that it comes out regularly with the same results. Plus, if you do a detox, you can see that the values descend or decrease, which is really helpful. So you can see your progress. But as I said, it's a very young technology and maybe needs a little bit refinement to match with other toxic results. Now, these are the main tools that you have, and they are all price-wise very similar. So whatever your practitioner, your local practitioner can do with you, that would certainly give you an indication on how toxic or how high your levels actually are. Now you can see here in these tests, it shows here very high cadmium levels, which is usually from painters very often, or spray painters, or people that work in the industry have those levels. Mercury here off the chart. It's actually way past the chart. Now that's a very critical, very dangerous level. And you can see silver is very high, beryllium is very high, then you have bismuth and lead poisoning. So that's a very dangerous chart, but that's pretty common. If you can see, all our charts are not very much different. This one has also cadmium and mercury. This one here has aluminium very high, and silver and mercury. So it shows, and I could go through hundreds of those charts, they all show very high levels. Even the other values are all in the yellow area. So when we look at heavy metals, we need to always look at the diseases that are correlated with different types of heavy metal. And Dr. Rau in Switzerland from the Paracelsus clinic made a very extravagant, very detailed analysis and test about that in regards to prostate cancer, breast cancer, colon cancer, when they took up a biopsy of the cancer and the healthy tissue right beside the tumor, and they tested between the two. The cancer tissue was 20,000 up to 40,000 times higher concentration in those heavy metals. So he correlated that prostate cancer is related to certain heavy metals, colon cancer or breast cancer. And that's something we need to take into account, that all of those cancers are hogs for heavy metals, and that's what needs to be detoxified before it reaches the state of tumor tissue. Now, I won't go through all of them. We just cover a few. When you look here at mercury, you see foggy head, leaky gut, food intolerances, anxiety, autistic spectrum disorder, endocrine disruptor, fatigue, depression, irritable bowel syndrome, headaches, speech and learning delay, and cancer. Now, mercury is very, very toxic, and it's the most common toxins that you can see in all our spectrometry charts. Everybody is very high. Even if they didn't have it themselves, they've inherited parts of it, and that is very difficult. And you can see it's coming, like I said before, from all the washout and all the rain from our coal burning industry into the water, and the end of the food chain, the fish like swordfish and tuna fish, which eat all the others, they accumulate the greatest amount. So they are very high in mercury. Amalgam fillings, vaccines, insecticides, fluorescent light bulbs, coal burning industry, all of that contributes. So that's a very dangerous toxin to have in your body, and it needs to be detoxified. And we'll cover that in a moment. Arsenic, for example, is another one. Increased hair loss, skin cancer, headaches, diarrhea, kidney problems, dark gray skin, pigmentation, confusion, cancer, conjunctivitis of the eyes, skin folds, nerve damage, vomiting, liver problems, death. Well, if it's in high concentration, arsenic is known as be a poison. And it comes from pesticides, medication, tobacco, smoke, paints, laundry detergents, coal burning, coal combustion, smoke, mining. And you can see it's like all around us. We have all those elements in our body. And you have the slides below, so I won't go through all of them. But aluminium, very, very high. And it's one of the common food additives. There is 30 infant formulas contaminated with high levels of aluminum. So it's something we need to be very careful. And you see I've marked digestive issues are almost part of every heavy metal. And that's where they are very often located. And they're stored in fat tissue, which is often the brain, which leads then to brain tumors or colon cancers, or if they are stored in the prostate, to prostate cancer. And that's something we need to get rid of. Now, lead, everybody knows lead poisoning is very dangerous. So let's look at the basics. Where are toxins stored? And it's really important to understand that. We have cells, then we have the fluid, the intracellular fluid, the extracellular fluid, which is in between the cells, and then we have the blood plasma. And these are all the fluids that are throughout the body moving from one to the other. There is always a membrane permeability. So from the cell into the extracellular fluid, into the plasma, there is a constant exchange. And that's where toxins are transported in the body, throughout the body, through whatever organ you take it in. If you drink it, if you eat it, if you breathe it, it all goes into that fluid, is transported throughout the body, and then it docks to the cell membrane. And usually there is two parts where toxins, heavy metals, are clinging onto. One would be the receptor sites, membrane receptor sites. So when you have a cell, you can see there is a lipid profile, a fat profile. That's the membrane of the cell. And this membrane has a lot of receptor sites, ion channel, potassium channel, all the fat and the lipid channels, and all of those glucose channels, and all of those are little mouths where your cell takes in nutrients and gets rid of waste products. So those go out and those go in. And then the cell, through that breathing in of nutrients and getting rid of waste products, actually builds a membrane potential, and that is indicated by a negative charge at the inside and a positive charge at the outside. And a healthy cell, which can breathe all the nutrients and create ATP, is at full charge around the 60 to 80 millivolt, which is the difference between inside and outside voltage and impedance. And then we have the inside the cell toxicity, when toxins actually get through the channel into the cell, and that's where heavy metals damage mitochondria and cellular energy, ATP production, DNA damage. This is actually causing, in most cases, cell death. But if the DNA is damaged, not to the degree of death, it can actually cause mutations, which then can become cancerous. And we know that heavy metals are actually carcinogens, which then produce cancer as well. So inside the cell is very dangerous, and we want the cell to die off. And at the outside the cell, we would like to get rid of those toxins that are dogging on to those cells. And that's clearly shown in this image. This is a healthy pathway, one of those ion channels that allows different types of nutrients, zinc, selenium, magnesium, sodium, calcium, to get into the cell. And then we have waste channels where the cell breathes out all the waste products. Now, if those are clogged here with toxins, and that's what toxins actually do, they cling on to that membrane receptor and they block it. And that's where the problem comes, that your cells slowly deflate, they lose energy, they deflate, because all of those cell membranes are poisoned. And the more toxic you are, the more those cells start to deteriorate. And that's where we need to look at two different things. And I'll start first with those nutrients that you see would actually need to go into the cell and which heavy metals block them, because this is very crucial, because if you don't supplement in the right way, you won't be able to detoxify. Now, before we talk about that, you can't test that yourself. Go to a good health practitioner and tell them that you need a blood test, full blood, tested in red blood cells for all the minerals that are related to the heavy metals that you found in your heavy metal test. And that would give you then in blood test that mineral spectrum that is actually blocked, that you are lacking. And this is a correlation. If I have, for example, high mercury, it actually indicates that I have low iodine, because iodine is constantly used to flush out mercury. So if my mercury level is high, I usually go down in iodine, and all vice versa with all the other elements. And the blood test will show that. The oligoscan does that as well. You can see the mineral spectrometry and it shows you how high you are in different minerals, and that's actually quite accurate. But do that with a professional, with a medical professional who will help you to really see your mineral balance. Now, protagonist, antagonist, you know, Darth Vader, we need to understand the principle. Heavy metals are the black, the dark ones we want to get rid of, and they block the receptor sites for good ones. So if you look at mercury, blocks selenium, zinc, iron and iodine. So all the iodine receptors, zinc and selenium receptor sites in those cells are docked on by mercury, and that blocks the nutrients from going into the cell. And that causes the cell to not function properly, to lose out on the ability to behave like a healthy cell, and they deflate and get sick, they get inflamed, or if the toxins go in, actually start to mutate and to destroy the DNA. Arsenic, same thing, blocks zinc, magnesium and selenium. Aluminium blocks magnesium, iron, manganese and zinc. And lead blocks calcium, iron and zinc. And you realize all of those heavy metals, and I've only listed 4 out of 12 or 14, and all of them have an influence on zinc uptake. And zinc is very important to fight cancer cells and to detoxify and for DNA repair. And let's just look at that. Implications of low zinc: heavy metal accumulation, nervous system depletion, poor concentration, foggy head. Brain fog is very bad. Twitches and poor immunity, poor digestion from reduced enzyme production. Now we know enzyme production digests our food, and if that's not produced properly, then we have the problem that nothing really works in your body. Synergistic nutrients: in order to take up zinc, you need to have enough vitamin A, B6, D, E, cysteine, glutathione, insulin, magnesium and manganese in your body in order to be able to absorb those nutrients. And metal antagonists, we talked about that before: lead, cobalt, cadmium, nickel, mercury. And excessive calcium intake impairs zinc absorption. Zinc competes with calcium and iron for absorption. So you need to balance really well. And that's where I said it's very clear that this is not something you can do on your own. You need a very good practitioner that can help you with balancing out your mineral status in order to be able to detoxify properly. Magnesium, the same thing. We have low implication. You can read them. The chart is underneath. Implication of low magnesium, what it does, synergistic nutrients to be able to uptake. And then metal antagonist: lead, cadmium, aluminium, arsenic and mercury. So if you want to detoxify from cadmium or mercury, you need to have quite good and healthy levels of magnesium in your body in order to flush it out. So, flushing out heavy metals. When you look at this principle of heavy metals being stuck in those channels, it's actually very difficult to get rid of them. Without any support, without any charge, negative charge to a positive molecule or positive charge to a negative molecule, you won't get rid of them. They are stuck in those channels, and lack of exercise certainly doesn't help to bring those cells back into movement. And that's where PEMF is actually the key. As soon as you pulse magnetic waves into the body, and that brings you, like here in this spectrum, you can see a magnet and you just put spans of metals over the top, it creates this extreme field around, and they move. As soon as you move the magnet, they are moving as well. And that indicates very clearly, if you put magnetic fields into your body, it shakes loose heavy metals. Now we'll talk about that in a lot more detail in a moment. So it shakes loose heavy metals, it clears the ion channels, it allows the cell to breathe. That's another issue. Now as soon as you have enough of those nutrients, iodine and magnesium and zinc and selenium in your body, you primed your body with it, all of a sudden those cells don't dock on straight away again to the membranes, but nutrients actually can flood into the cell. And that's something we've noticed. There's always a bit of a controversy. Are we charging the cells with magnetic fields? Not really, because they don't have like a battery, a charging field. It's more when those membranes are blocked, they deflate, they lose energy, they collapse. Now, as soon as all of those ion channels open up, the cell can breathe and it can take in all the nutrients and it swells up. And you can see this in this image. The first part here is a very compressed cell. It's a very deflated cell. It doesn't have a clear membrane at the outside because it's all collapsing. About 1/3 of the size it should actually be. Now, after a 15-minute PEMF treatment, where you shake loose all of those membrane receptors, the cells start to open up, start to breathe, and take up all the nutrients and oxygen and glucose, and all the channels clear up. And that's why the cell increases in size almost threefold. And it's very clear, it's under the same magnitude. Take in this image, and your red blood cells as well, instead of being clinging one to the other, they all of a sudden open up and they can carry oxygen. Now this is actually the process. So when you have those cells and those ion channels and they're blocked, you send in PEMF waves, and the stronger they are, the more they clear out. And then you have binders, and that's what we talk about next. Binders are molecules that attach to heavy metals and render them harmless. So they are not bang clinging back onto the next membrane. They are floating away and they can be eliminated out of the body. And that's what is very, very important. And this is one of the elements that I try to explain all the time. When you start PEMF treatment and you get slightly dizzy, you get nauseated, you get headache, you have a side effect. We call that a Herxheimer reaction. Then you should stop right away. Prime your body first with binders. Binders cling onto those heavy metals that are washed out all of a sudden and then go into the bloodstream and clog up the liver or sit in any other area where they're not been before and poison new areas. And that's why you feel those side effects. So prime your body with binders. And not only when you have those side effects, it's actually a very intelligent process to do that before, so that your body has the ability to catch them and eliminate those heavy metal molecules. And that's what they do. It's like long chains and they will attach. Now let's look at some of those binders. Number one, citrus pectin. And there is well-known modified citrus pectin is a very well binding element to heavy metals. We have clay, and you can have the edible clay. So you mix up a glass in the morning, you drink that, and then you do detox, and then your body is primed to catch all of those heavy metals and eliminate them as harmless medium out of your body. Zeolite is very powerful. Chlorella, very cheap, very easy, and very simple to do. And you can do quite a lot of chlorella because it not only binds, it also detoxifies, and that's a very convenient way. And activated charcoal, where you need to be a little bit careful. But that's the main elements that you would need to prime if you have a Herxheimer reaction, or if you want to detoxify from very high levels of heavy metals into a green area, which we all should be. The second part that I would like to recommend, really drink before you do PEMF and after. Water is the best solution to pollution, and it's something we really need to be aware. Intracellular fluid or cellular fluid or plasma is all dependent on very good water. So drink water, avoid plastic bottles, get filters and get your water filtered, or get spring water, and drink 2 glasses before, 2 glasses after, if you want, in between when you do a change in position. And through that, you will realize that the washout of toxins through kidney will be a lot better. Another very important part is when you detoxify, you flush out a lot of toxins into those, from the cellular membrane into the intracellular, into the plasma, and it's transported from there directly into the liver. All your blood is washed through the liver, where it needs to be broken down and detoxified in phase 1 and phase 2. And that means it's very crucial that you have a detox way to detoxify the liver and support the liver in that process. And that's where enemas are great. It's only important that you don't just do one enema, because it washes out all the toxins into the bile duct, and it goes directly, let me just show you that. It's really crucial. If you see here the whole gut, and I zoom in very closely, all your blood comes from the colon, from the small intestine, from everywhere, goes directly into your liver, and from the liver into here, right after the stomach, exactly where the pancreas is, into the small intestines. And now it runs through all the small intestine, through all the colon, and can be reabsorbed. That's the gut, what it's used for. It's absorbing nutrients, and it's also absorbing heavy metals, unfortunately. So priming the body with lots of binders, lots of fiber is very crucial, because it helps you to absorb and bind those heavy metals that you can get rid of them. Otherwise, you do all that effort, you pump it free with PEMF, and then you flush it out into the liver. You do an enema to flush it out, and then it goes slowly in about 6 hours through, or 7 hours through your small intestine and the colon, and that's where it's reabsorbed into the body. And that's not really wise. We want to get rid of them. And then there is additional things that you can do to bind and detoxify from the colon. And this is something very important. And green vegetables with the chlorophyll are very potent, very powerful detoxification agents. When you look at the principle of the Gerson therapy, they do 5 coffee enemas a day, which is a lot of flushing, a lot of cleansing of the liver. They use PEMF now to really pump out all the toxins into the liver, all the heavy metals, and then flush out the colon with coffee enemas 5 times a day. Plus, they have loads of fiber, loads of greens. They don't only drink juices, they also have a big menu to eat, which then supports the fiber intake to bind to toxins and to get rid of it. So the juices are great, but also have enough fiber and enough binders to eliminate toxins. Raw garlic is very powerful as a chelating agent and to stimulate the process within the liver. Antiseptic, antibacterial, garlic helps stimulate the liver to produce detoxification enzymes that help filter toxins from the digestive system. Well, that's something we need. So combine it with fresh garlic. I never forget, we've been to San Aviv in Mexico, and there were big jars of fresh peeled garlic on the table, and all patients, when they ate fresh garlic cloves directly to their diet. And it was a bit smelly in the beginning, but after a while, everybody smelled the same, and you slow down you activate your immune system so much that the smell slowly reduces. So it's a very powerful agent to combine. We know artichokes and cilantro are very well known, and there are many more. I've only listed really the most potent and the most powerful for you to add to your program, so that when you shake loose, that you also detoxify them out of your gut and out of your colon. Now, for those of you who have problems with detoxification, I'll talk about that in the end, about the DNA test. But if you have problems with detoxification, it's actually very wise to pull it not through the liver and not through the kidneys, because that's a big mission. It's actually a pharmaceutical process, a chemistry process for the body to pull it through the skin. And that would mean you use far infrared sauna and you sweat it out. The more, the better. You can do it daily without any problem. And if you have a dome like this, you just lay in, you turn it on at full power, you do half an hour of very intense sweat, and you will realize that you pull out very deep tissue toxins very, very fast. Clay bath, very much the same. You just have a hot bath, you put magnetic clay into it, and that will pull out toxins dramatically. Hypothermia, if you increase the temperature so that you go into fever therapy, you produce huge amounts of toxins and they're washed out directly into the towel. And many times you can see the towel forming yellow and black because of the toxins that are released. Oil pulling, very, very powerful. You pull it with sloshing through the mouth. Poultices, if you have a disease, if you have directly a local problem, cancer, liver cancer, it's very powerful to put a poultice over the top and pull the toxins directly through the skin into the medium, which helps to bypass the liver and to save all that energy for the body because it's not needed. Exercise, well, certainly stimulates in the same way as PEMF a release of toxins, and through the sweat you get rid of it. And then we have skin brushing and all of those other tools that you can add to the program as well. Now, I spoke just right now that some of you might have problems with detoxification, and it really is important to know. Now, this indicates a detox panel of the nutrigenomic test, and it shows exactly how your body can detoxify. Green would be works well. Orange would mean it works impaired, about 50 to 75%. And red would mean it works less than 25%. So that's quite a crucial area. If you have a chart like this, it would mean your liver, detox phase 1 and detox phase 2, cannot produce enough of the detox enzymes to break down the toxins. And that's quite critical. We need to separate detox phase 1 and detox phase 2. So if detox phase 1 breaks down all the toxins, which makes them water soluble so they can go anywhere in the body, they're actually more dangerous than before, and then detox phase 2 doesn't work, then you're stuck with those toxins. And that's quite dangerous because now you have a circulation of very toxic waste material. And that's why in those cases we slow down detox phase 1 so that detox phase 2 can catch up. But if both are impaired, then we need to pull out as much as we can through the skin and actually bypass the liver as good as we can, or use chelators and take everything through the liver, through the kidneys, and then urinate. So it's a little bit of a balancing act, and I would not do all of that on my own. Look for a very good health practitioner who knows about those processes, who knows how to set that up, and then follow through. In one thing you need to do in any case, if you start using PEMF for detox and you feel side effects, refer back to this chart here. Get enough binders into your body, as many as you can, and prepare your body to take up all of those toxins that they are rendered neutral. This is pretty much the main point that you need to learn from this lesson, so that you don't pollute your body or poison your body even more, but actually get rid of it. And then do a test before, do a test in 3 to 6 months and see how your levels decrease and what else you need to do in order to get rid of your toxins and increase your supplementation to balance those levels out, right? Thanks for joining us, and all the slides are underneath. All the links are underneath to all the different products, so it's very easy for you to find what you need.